Hey guys, welcome to another video, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. So I just got this new set of Holbein Acrylic Gouache and I thought it would be fun to do a bit of a first impressions video. I have tried normal gouache before. I've tried the Winsor & Newton designer gouache and also the Himi jelly gouache, but not really ever to do a big piece or anything. I've just messed about with it really. So this is like the first proper piece I would have ever done in gouache. I've also got this wet palette by the brand Redgrass, which I've used once or twice maybe before, and I used it with normal gouache actually. I didn't really give it a proper chance. As I said, I was only messing about with gouache before, so yeah, so I'm giving it a proper test out for the first time now too. I'm not normally one for really testing supplies out before I play with them for the first time. I usually just like to go straight in with a full piece or something. And that's what I wanted to do today. So I was just getting a little feel of things here, just see how much water I needed for the base layers and stuff. But yeah, I got really bored really quick, and I just like to quickly get onto a piece, and that is what I did. I'm just trying out like mixing some different colours and stuff and just seeing how I can create a gradient or blend in. And this blue one sort of looked terrible, so I just thought let's just go in with a proper piece. Not that this was supposed to look good in any way. I just wanted to make some marks on a piece of paper just so you can see in the video more than anything really. And I'd just like to say really quickly before we get too far in that this will not be a how-to acrylic gouache or how-to tutorial of any kind. It's just purely my first impressions of using a brand new medium to me. Another thing that's brand new to me is this new sketchbook. It is a Seawhite concertina, I think that's how you say it, concertina sketchbook. And I wanted to use it just for my gouache paintings. I thought it'd be fun to be able to open it all out and see a different painting on each side of the paper. I do have a absolute stash of sketchbooks, and I just keep buying more. I just can't help myself, you know. Sketchbooks are my weakness when it comes to art supplies or anything really. Any kind of book, whether it be a journal, a lovely new notebook, a novel or a sketchbook, I am a sucker for a beautiful book in my hands. So, as you can see, I just did a very, very quick line drawing. I have been learning this new technique with acrylics, and it is by a wonderful artist named Ali K Studio, and it's pretty much just blocking in big shapes and looking at things as big shapes. Ali's style is really very, very loose and also quite quick, and I just love that. I love being able to have a finished painting done in just a couple of hours, even though I usually accidentally add more details than I'm supposed to. So here is my reference photo. I'll link the link in the description for you to download it yourself if you want. It's from Unsplash, so it's free to use. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the choices I made for my base colours. So Ali teaches to do a value study firsthand in like a nice purple colour. So you've already got like your values already mapped out before you then go in with your, well, top layers. But I decided to give the first value study a miss and just go straight in with the complementary undertones of the painting. So what I mean by that is I look at my reference photo and I first sort of squint my eyes and pick out the big shapes that are in the reference, and then I go in with a light wash of paint in the complementary colour of what I'm seeing in the reference. So right now I'm putting a green wash down for where the red roses are going to go. Now, I did intend for this base under painting to be a little bit more of a wash, but I do have a problem with using my paint way too thick, and it's something I definitely need to get better at. But it didn't really matter too much, as I just wanted to have fun with this painting and try it out. I think that's what's always been my problem with normal gouache, is going in way too thick too early, and I know that's not what we do, but you know, I love thick paint. In the photo on the screen at the moment, I just circled around the big shapes that I could see, and so I wanted to put it on here so you can sort of compare it to what you're seeing me painting. So like all the green bits would be pink, and then the red bits would be green, and purple bits would be yellow. I think you get the gist. So I'm always doing complementary colours underneath what will be the actual painting. I hope this makes sense, because I am really not great at explaining things. I don't know why I started a YouTube channel. It's not the best for me. So the idea of doing the complementary colour undertone or base coat or base layer, whatever you want to call it, the idea of that is, so when you are going on top with your thicker paint, the base colour will show through a little bit, and this works so well with actual acrylics because they are more transparent, and so you can see like little sparkles of the base colours shining underneath the paintings, and it just looks so beautiful. And although it didn't work in the exact same way with gouache, acrylic gouache, because obviously it is a bit more opaque than normal acrylics, or a lot more opaque than normal acrylics, it still worked in its own unique way and actually looked really pretty at the end. So I know it looks really quite something right now, but I promise it does come together at the end, and I did create a beautiful loose painting. So I hope you like the finished piece, and also how I got there, because it's very interesting to see how it can go from this to what it looks like in the end. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what acrylic gouache actually is and how it's different to normal gouache. So they're both water soluble, they both work pretty much the same in that way, and also look pretty much the same. But the acrylic gouache is made with an acrylic binder, so much the same as acrylic paint, you cannot reactivate it once it is dry. So with normal gouache, you put your layers down, and then as you go in with more layers, you can reactivate the layers underneath. You can't do that with acrylic gouache. Another thing is, because of the binders, you can use the acrylic gouache much more thick, like a much thicker application than you can normal gouache, because normal gouache is binded with gum arabic usually, or other natural binders. It is prone to cracking a lot more than the acrylic gouache is. And that's good to know for me, because I've literally just read that as I'm making this voiceover, and I didn't actually realise it. So that's good to know for me, as I do like to work quite thickly with my paint. I do honestly think that the acrylic gouache is like the perfect love child between two mediums. If you like gouache and you like acrylics, you just simply have to try this. It's awesome. I usually use a matte medium with my acrylics anyways, because I do prefer a bit more of a matte finish, so this medium is pretty exciting for me. And also, it is probably the most vibrant paint I have ever seen. I'm not joking when I say that bright green nearly blinded me when I first put it on the palette. You can't really see it on the video, but it is so bright, which makes me think that these colours can't be light fast. I'll have to find that one out. If you want me to do more of like a deep dive into certain mediums, including this one, where I can sort of find out a bit more about the actual, what would you call it? Well, the actual information of these mediums, then I'm really happy to do that and to make a video about it, because although I am interested, today I'm a bit short of time for this voiceover because I'm currently getting ready for my cousin's wedding, and I will be there when this video comes out, so I'm in a bit of a rush and don't have much time to do the actual research necessary to make a full video on this topic. So yeah, just let me know if that's something you'd like to see in the future. Okay, so this is the next day now. Although the actual painting didn't take very long at all, I did spread it over 3 days just because of time, and then I also wanted to see how my wet palette held up over a few days of using it. So the way a wet palette works is you have a little sponge which you wet and you put it in the tray, and then you put this palette paper over the top of that sponge, and it's also got an airtight lid on it, so once you finish painting you can close the lid and your paint will be nice and wet and good to go for days, if not weeks, after you finish using it. Now, when I first used this palette with normal gouache, I did notice that after a couple of days the gouache got really runny inside the palette, and it was almost like water, honestly, and I feel like it's not really supposed to do that, and I think maybe that was just because it was gouache. The acrylic gouache did that a tiny bit, but not nearly as much as the normal gouache, and I think that these palettes are actually supposed to be used for just ordinary acrylic paint, and I bet that they wouldn't have that runny problem at all, just because they are a much thicker medium. But I'm not sure. I will have to do a little test of that and come back to you. Now I'm going in with a much thicker paint and pretty much getting all of my greens in. It does have an incredible messy stage and does end up coming together at the end, but it's one of those paintings where you just kind of have to push through and hope for the best. But I did have like a clear intent for this one, and that was to make an abstract, colourful, just really loose flower painting. I wanted you to see some of the mixes that I was making because I thought they looked really pretty, so I put this palette on the side just so you can have a little look at some of the colours you can make. So my husband did buy me these acrylic gouache for Christmas, and as I said, they are the Holbein make, and yeah, I really do like them, and I got the 24 set, and honestly that is more than enough colours. It's more colours than you could really want because you can mix anything, especially with how bright the colours are, like the lemon yellow, the leaf green. They are just absolutely luminous. So yeah, you could just make some beautiful colours with this set. I will leave a link in the description to Jackson's art supplies for these paints, and it is an affiliate link because I've got that set up now, so that's exciting for me. If you fancy trying this paint or any of these colours, then do just use that link and it'll really help me out, I think, and will also enable my art supply addiction, so I'd really appreciate that. You really don't need many colours at all. When I use just acrylics, I tend to use just 8 colours and don't really venture further than that. Mainly that's because that's what I've learned from Ali K Studio and for her techniques. But yeah, I just love to have colours. I love to have loads of colours, but also having too many colours can become really overwhelming and can make you even not want to create. So it is nice to have a selection, but it's also nice to not have many colours. I think it's much less of a barrier to actually get started and paint having less colours than it is having a full set of 40 colours or something. You can actually get a really good little set of 5 colours, the 3 primary I can't talk properly, you know. The 3 primary colours and then a black and a white. You can get that set on Jackson's Art for like £13, and I really don't think that's bad at all. I'll have to try out just using those primary colours to do a full painting and then show you what you can create with just a few colours. So another thing of note I wanted to talk about while I'm doing this voiceover is the palette again. So I noticed with these acrylic gouache and also with acrylics, you get like a really big build-up of paint on your brush, and I really like to have somewhere to scrape my paint, and that's also why I use that little palette on the side there, just so I could scrape some colour off, because you end up with loads of paint at the top of the bristles of your brush and then no paint on the actual tip, and it just causes a bit of a backlog of paint and a bit of waste as well. So obviously I did end up wasting that bit of paint, what's left on the palette on the left hand side, but I did just want to scrape the paint off the top of my bristles down to the end of my bristles, because you can't really work that way, and it ends up drying on there and then you just can't get it off. So it's all right with gouache, normal gouache, because it's water soluble again and easy to come off, but with acrylic gouache and then acrylics, it ends up ruining your brushes if you don't clean them properly afterwards. But that's just the pros and cons of everything, isn't it? You can use the wet palette and save paint, and also I suppose you could scrape your brush on the sides there, but I didn't want to do that because I just felt like it would mess my lovely brand new palette up, and I didn't want to do it. But maybe one day I'll be less precious and I will do that. You can also put the palette paper on with a few lumps on it, and I do that in the second half of this video. Actually, I refresh my paint on the palette because it got a little bit muddy, and then I put a few more ridges in when I put the palette paper on, and then you can scrape it on there, so that is a good little workaround. So here we are with a nice fresh palette, and do you see what I mean about the little ridges on the paper? And actually that does work really well to get that bit of paint off of the top bristles of your brush. Another thing I think helps a lot with this problem is using a brush with longer bristles instead of the shorter ones. I use two types of brushes on this painting. A minute ago you would have seen me use the Daler Rowney system free flat brush, and that has really lovely long bristles on, and I love using those for acrylic paints. And then this brush that I'm using right here is just the absolute cheapest pack of brushes you could possibly buy out of Hobbycraft. Did you just hear my dog sneeze then as I said that? They love to spend time with me in the studio, just chilling, and oh, I just love having them around. Something I struggle with a little bit with mediums is finding a really beautiful bright red, and this is the Scarlet, I think, and I just thought it was so bright and beautiful. It was absolutely perfect colour for these roses. And then I don't know why I went on with this really dark ugly colour, and I feel maybe I ruined them a little bit, but oh well. And I'm just using a round brush just to do the stems of these roses, adding in a few details but not too many. Really wanted to keep things nice and loose here, but also make it so you could see that they were actually flowers, because at one point I was looking and thinking, yes, this is lovely and colourful, but does it look floral? And I think it does after I put those stems in. So as I'm near to the end of this little painting now, I suppose I just wanted to talk a little bit about my first impressions as a whole of acrylic gouache, and I loved it. I will definitely be using it a lot more. If you want to see someone who does amazing acrylic gouache paintings, her name is Helen Carter Artist, or Helen's Doodles on Instagram, and she has been doing loads of sketchbook pages in January for my prompt list, and she's been doing them with acrylic gouache, and honestly I can't explain to you how inspiring it is to see her use of colour and how well she layers with these. You must go and check her out, honestly. You won't regret it, I promise. I do have a lot to learn with these paints, mainly the layering process and the colours as well. and just which colours work well together, etc. I definitely need to try with a limited palette, because as I said before, that does really help, and especially when you're new with a medium, probably best to not go in with like all the colours you have like I did here. Well, I didn't use that many actually, but you know what I mean. I think that if I would have kept it to a much smaller palette, maybe it would have been a little bit more what's the word? Cohesive. That's the word I'm trying to find. But overall, I really enjoyed using them. I love that they can't be reactivated underneath. I love that you can use them thicker. That I really love, because that's how I like to use my acrylic paints. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this little painting come out actually for my first one, and I can't wait to learn more with this medium. Another thing is, before I forget, my absolute favourite thing about these colours were just how vibrant they are. Honestly, straight out of the tube, they are just the most vibrant paints I've ever seen, and that is also going to be a big learning process of how to use more muted tones and not just the really vibrant colours. And there we are at the end of another video. Thank you so much for clicking on this one. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and even leave a comment if you would like to see more acrylic gouache videos and paintings from me in the future. I am so grateful for all of your feedback. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.